Greetings to you. My name is Brabazon and I'm the Dean of Graduate Research at Flinders University, and welcome to Vlog 51, Microlearning. Now, most of you watching this vlog, you are PhD students, you are research masters students. You believe in education, you believe in teaching, you believe in learning. If you believe in learning, particularly gaining a university level qualification, you also believe in deferred gratification. I've often described education as superannuation for the mind. You sacrifice in your present to create a better future for yourself, for your family, and also for the planet. But education, teaching and learning right now is changing, and changing radically. Part of this change, I think, is about a deathly embrace between pretty dodgy digitisation and the casualisation of the academic workforce. When those two variables come together, we're finding some pretty odd and disturbing consequences, I think. But there are elements of higher education at the moment that are quite concerning, a lot of elements, and some of the future vlogs may explore those. For example, we will do a vlog on Guy Standing's The Precariat and what that particular class of workers means for higher education and people like you. Now, as you can see though, I believe a great deal in higher education. I have 3 bachelor degrees, 3 master's degrees, a couple of graduate diplomas and a PhD. And what you learn from that story is I like structured learning. I'm very interested in knowledge, new knowledge and interdisciplinarity, and I have profound respect for academics. So I would like to enroll in a degree and learn from their expertise. Now, I do a lot of work internationally in the creative industries, the knowledge economy, regional development, and I'm particularly interested in the relationship between food and wine and regional development and music and an array of media, screen and sound-based portfolios. That is of interest to me. So when the phrase gastronomic tourism started to emerge, I thought, that's something I'm very interested in, and a master's degree appeared, a Masters of Gastronomic Tourism. So I enrolled in that master's program, as did hundreds of other scholars from around the world, all paying international fees. So a lot of people were interested. This was a new and emerging area, but I didn't end up graduating with that master's qualification. I took out a graduate diploma. And the reason I took out a graduate diploma was the course was so incredibly poor. The first opportunity I had to take out an exit qualification, I took that opportunity. So what was going wrong with higher education and this more formalised learning structure going into a degree? What was happening here? Well, the first 3 subjects of this Masters of Gastronomic Tourism were incredibly well written, innovative, edgy knowledge, brilliant. They were taught by casualised staff who didn't necessarily know what they were doing and in fact wanted my assignments at the end of the course so they could model that behaviour for the future cohorts of students that would enter the qualification. That's fine, no worries. So the first 3 subjects, okay. The next 3 subjects were old, dated, being multi-purpose through multiple degrees, and the reading I was enacting was 10, 15 years out of date. Now I was paying $2,650 for each subject in this course. $2,650. So by the time I was enrolled in the 3rd really dodgy subject at $2,650 a time, I said, thanks for playing, and I'm now going to take an early exit from this degree. Now that's the first time in the entirety of my higher education experience and career that I stopped believing in the value of formal qualifications, and I can't see me ever doing another Australian degree in any form because the experience was so poor. So there's lots of reasons for that decline in standards that we're seeing, a decline in reading, decline in writing, decline in scholarship, and again we'll talk about that in future vlogs. But today what I want to talk about is micro learning. and why non-higher education providers are moving into this market. So you can see what's happening. Corporate providers, not universities, corporate providers are providing training for an array of workers through the economy. So this is a post-university way of thinking and learning. So let's start with some definitions. Right, what is micro-learning? Firstly, micro-learning is also termed nano-learning. You'll see both terms being deployed, and there is a literature emerging in and through and around both of these terms, and they are pretty well used interchangeably. It is a mode of teaching and learning that is delivered in intense bursts, 1 hour, 2 hour, 5 hour, 10 hour. It is delivered digitally, and learners are in control of their learning. So you get the material that you want pushed to you rather than you pulling in information as required by a teacher or a university curriculum. You choose what is useful for you and you decide when you're going to engage with those materials. So yes, this is about learning and teaching, but perhaps more so it's about the workforce. And it's about understanding what's happening to the political economy right now. So micro-learning is skill-based, not knowledge-based. It's also post-MOOC. This micro-learning learnt from the experiment, the failures, the problems of MOOCs, and has created a new model that really is beyond what the MOOC was ever able to do. This is a new way of learning. Its effectiveness, though, is somewhat more difficult to determine. So what we're getting from this is micro-learning is about skill development, not knowledge development. What's happening is in the workplace, you need to confirm that you have a skill, and micro-learning can deliver you that skill. So micro-learning is therefore determined by time. It is an engagement with compressed ideas digitally, very small scale learning assessments. So the assessments for it are very, very small. They might be multiple choice. They might be a short reflection on the learning process, but you do get some form of qualification or badging at the conclusion of this micro-learning. It's also aligned and builds on mobile learning. A lot of you out there, hi guys and gals, are working in M-learning, mobile learning. Micro-learning is also part of that suite. So it's got some characteristics. It is brief, it is granular. That means it looks at a very, very small area, tiny area, but in some depth. It has variety with a diverse mode of delivery of content, diverse modes. It also has immediate results, this instant gratification thing. So you work for 2 or 3 hours and then you get a badge or a micro qual at the end of it. And it's also budget friendly. Now this is really important. As higher education becomes very expensive, micro-learning is often geared around a subscription model. So you pay $30, $50, $100 or $150 for a year, and you can do as many of these micro-learning experiences as you like per year under that subscription model. So it's a very different way of thinking about learning. It operates, if you like, as part of what I call accelerated culture or the accelerated academy. Everything's becoming very fast, very quick, and micro-learning is a strategy to connect up very strongly what's happening in higher education and what is happening in the workforce. The bridge between those two paradigms can be micro-learning. But the problems in micro-learning are clear. There's very little research at this point that determines its effectiveness. So yes, people are getting these badges and so forth for learning. Is it actually effective learning? Not so sure yet. Also, the effectiveness of learning in tiny little slices of information and knowledge as we're seeing in micro-learning at the moment, the effectiveness of that is also questionable. So micro-learning is small, it's compact, it has a clear objective, but its efficiency is still under debate. It's best used, I think, when you have very, very clear goals. So you want to learn a piece of software. For example, I did a great one on, I wanted to improve my use of pivot tables. I love pivot tables. I knew I wasn't getting as much out of pivot tables as I needed to. So I did some micro-learning on pivot tables, living the dream. But if you're interested in leadership or coaching or a technique in teaching and learning like the flipped classroom, there is a great micro-learning initiative around the flip. Or if you're interested in how to operate a piece of hardware, some very interesting micro-learning scenarios are emerging. So you need a clear outcome and clear proof that you've had that learning moment. Then micro-learning will help you. So let me give you an example about when this is a good strategy, I think. When you are applying for jobs, for posts, both inside and outside the university sector, we have a clear series of criteria by which we are assessing you. And we need to see that you are fulfilling that list of expectations we have of you as a future worker. Now, one of the great and quick ways to fulfill one of those areas that you may not have is to do a short, sharp micro-learning burst on one of those key terms for a job application. It can be done quickly, it can be done in 2 hours, you've got the badge and you can confirm that you've got that expertise for a prospective employer. I think that is a good strategy. So micro-learning has one learning outcome and a certification that you've achieved that at the end. Now, where this starts to become important is when we talk about LinkedIn. I saw a fascinating study this last week that 97% of employers in the public and private sphere are looking at a LinkedIn profile when they're shortlisting. So avoiding LinkedIn is really not an option for anybody trying to attain work. And micro-learning badges, a record of this learning, exists directly on LinkedIn. So micro-learning is video-based, often dovetailed with YouTube for different providers, and is reasonably good quality, I think. So micro-learning, short, easy, you can fit it into your lifestyle. You can do it at 3 a.m. in the morning, you can do it at 10 o'clock at night. It fits in with your needs. Micro-learning has a home, a place where you can have a look at what this type of scenario looks like and how it is executed. And that home is on LinkedIn. What happened was there's been a major provider of micro-learning, if you will, training for private and public providers for a long time. And this provider was known as lynda.com, Lynda with a Y, lynda.com. And so lynda.com for nearly 2 decades has allowed private sphere, public sphere, universities to engage in skill-based development, competency-based training in the 90s, for those of you that remember that movement. And some universities directly partnered with LinkedIn.com. So the University of the Highlands and the Islands, for example, wonderful, fascinating university, didn't really offer institutionally based professional development. They simply bought it in from lynda.com. So lynda.com was an ideal project and method to create a skill-based development for the contemporary fast-paced workforce. And therefore it's not a surprise at all that LinkedIn bought lynda.com for $1.5 billion. So lynda.com always had video-led delivery, business-based outcomes, and of course very clear small tasks that you were able to do by the end of the learning experience. So they've been around for 20 years and they were useful, I think, for LinkedIn as they were moving to gain more graduates attracted to their website. You see, you are the target market of LinkedIn, and in the last year more and more graduates and more PhD students in particular have been drawn to the site. So one way they could increase and build upon that initiative was to buy lynda.com and have a new bit of LinkedIn called Learning. So if you go to linkedin.com, there's a little section that says Learning, boom, click it, that's the lynda.com suite. So what we're recognizing here is MOOCs clearly failed in this space. They deployed really old teaching methods, sage on a stage stuff that didn't work, had incredibly high dropout rates and very, very low completion rates. And I think the Times Higher as early as 2013 noted that the completion rate for MOOCs was 7%. 7%. So that model wasn't working and would not operate for the contemporary workplace that needs to see results. So we're now in a new environment. You're completing your PhD, you're completing your research master's degree, but you need a new skill set for the public or private sector, or indeed for the university sector. And you can now gain those skills quickly from LinkedIn. Short courses, 1 hour to 10 hours, a certificate is provided, you can badge it on your LinkedIn profile. This is going well. So as you can see, the key area of growth for LinkedIn in the last year has been academics, and a whole series of new jobs are being advertised from universities around the world, noting that academics are increasingly going to LinkedIn to look for jobs. So you are the target market of the new LinkedIn, and you have to decide if it's worth the time and the money to pay a subscription per year to gain the learning suite for you. But as the cost of diplomas and degrees increases, I think microlearning is a key option for you to consider. So if you are interested in gaining some information about leadership, or coaching, or software, or hardware, and there is also, can I say, a very good suite on teaching and learning, then microlearning is a great option for you. I hope you enjoy having an experiment with this new way of thinking, this new way of learning about skills rather than knowledge. And as always, I wish you love, light, and peace. Tea out.